the early morning, boatmen ferry building sand across the border from the Congo to help rebuild Bangui. Like the winding Ubangi River, CA's fortunes have not followed a straight path. The elation of independence from France in 1960 was short-lived. A series of political crises and deepening conflicts saw the collapse of the government in 1997 and the arrival of the first African peacekeepers.
It was really a very nasty situation in Central Africa, a lot of killings of civilians.
Despite regional efforts, deteriorating political and economic conditions severely set back the Central African nation, which is ranked among the world's poorest, despite rich mineral and agricultural resources. During this crisis, accord arrived in 2012 after 2 decades' involvement in Burundi, the DRC, South Sudan, Liberia, Madagascar, and Sierra Leone to assist ECCAS in their attempts to support the peace process.
So it was easier for accord than, for example, ECCAS or African Union to convince the government to go to dialogue.
On the back of the Bangui Forum, these efforts gained momentum in 2017 as the African Union and international partners established the African Initiative for Peace and Reconciliation in the Central African Republic.
The first thing we have done was to create a mood of confidence. That is the most important issue, but also the most difficult.
The invaluable support of the European Union enabled Accord, the Center for Humanitarian Dialogue, and the Community of Sant'egidio to prepare the government, civil society, and armed groups for negotiations.
An organization like Accord cannot do what it does without the support, financial support, moral support of its partners.
C'est un des projets phares en termes politiques pour l'Union européenne, parce que la médiation, la réconciliation, pouvoir accompagner le gouvernement, pouvoir accompagner l'ensemble des acteurs dans cette recherche d'une négociation, dans cette recherche de la paix, c'est quelque chose d'essentiel pour l'Union européenne.
Accord played a key role in preparing and assisting the government negotiation team for the talks under the leadership of now Prime Minister Firmin Ngrebada, and the team were taken to South Africa for training.
We had a network in South Africa that could discuss with the negotiating team of government constitutional options, how to coordinate talks with governance, how to pursue and craft responses to stabilizing the security sector, how to include and ensure the mainstreaming of women, civil society, youth.
Nous nous sommes rendus à Durban pour bénéficier donc des expériences, des outils que Accor a mis à la disposition d'autres pays et qui leur ont permis d'avoir la paix.
In early 2019, talks opened in Khartoum and Accord was present throughout.
Tout au long du processus, depuis la préparation, les négociations à Khartoum, la signature de l'accord de paix, la mise en œuvre, Accor fait partie donc des partenaires qui sont directement impliqués dans le processus. Donc, il ne fait pas de doute que Accor a beaucoup apporté au processus de paix en République centrafricaine.
Our head of mission sat in the benches, in the back benches, advising the team, being able to be there. And I think what is significant is that we became an on-demand facility for the peace process in CA.
This meticulous preparation saw the signing of a peace agreement between the government and 14 armed groups in February 2019. But now the hard work began.
But when you got the peace agreement, then you start having another challenge. How to make the peace agreement work?
A peace agreement is compromise. How do you build your compromise with your adversaries? Taking into consideration the mood in the country, the relationship between government and the armed group, this was particularly tough.
We have now set up a monitoring and evaluation office within the presidency where the implementation of the peace agreement is overseen.
With continued support from the European Union, Accord's Bangui office has become an important peace facility for consolidating and popularising the agreement.
Cet accord devrait être promu, devait être ventilé, faire comprendre à nos populations qui ne comprennent pas encore pour que chacun s'approprie de cet accord-là pour que la paix retrouvée soit effective.
Sensitization is very important. Only a few representatives from the government were in Khartoum, but the rest were in Bangui. So they need to understand that peace accord. They need to understand the content.
Despite much progress, the peace process still faces many challenges.
DDR is the main issue because the violence is still going on because weapons are everywhere in this country.
Et si on n'arrive pas à désarmer ces armes artisanales, ça c'est un danger aussi pour le pays.
We need to find solutions for quick peace dividends so that the population remains hopeful that some solution will come out of this peace agreement. If not, whatever we bring on the ground to implement, we might just fail because people would not join this movement.
Dealing with the wounds of the past remains pivotal.
Here in the country, the president, government, everybody are aware of the difficulties with victims for these atrocities. That's why we have found in this peace agreement to give possibilities of reparation for these victims.
Ultimately, there can be no peace without addressing root causes of conflict, and it's a long road ahead.
Going from a peace agreement to a state of peace in the country is a long process. And what does that state of peace look like? It looks like a country that has dealt with the challenges of unemployment, inequality, and poverty. Now, that will take a generation.
So now we have to be more resilient, all of us now. And when people start complaining that, okay, 6 months and then, these guys, they are not, there is a lot of violation, I say, look, 6 months is nothing in a lifetime of implementation of a peace agreement.
Il ne faut pas s'arrêter aux difficultés de mise en œuvre pour rejeter cet accord. Je suis de celles qui pensent qu'il faut s'impliquer. Impliquer les femmes, impliquer les jeunes, impliquer les groupes armés, impliquer les politiques, la société civile pour la mise en œuvre effective de cet accord de Khartoum.
The future remains precarious for the people of CAR. Approaching elections in 2020 will be a crucial milestone for the peace agreement.
We have a huge event going forward. It's the elections. Election is one of the main issues we are working on right now here.
What we have to ensure in this period is that the partners, all of the partners, whether that's the African Union, the United Nations, the European Union, NGOs like ourselves, private sector partners, do not disengage from the country at this point.
It's a huge step. For us, we see hope, and the involvement of Accord is part of assisting the country to move forward.
For Accord, the bigger picture is clear. Africa's future depends on dealing with its conflicts, and this will require strong international partnerships.
Whatever instability is in the Central African Republic spills over to its neighbors as well. And there's enough instability in the region to ensure that if instability persists in the Central African Republic, it will have a destabilizing effect on its neighbors.
We have no other alternative. The people has no alternative, political class has no alternative. Then we hope that we have to find a solution. Because, the people are very tired. The country is very tired. The sub-region is very tired with this conflict. So we hope that all this put together will bring people to be reasonable and to find a solution for the problem remaining during this peace implementation phase.